Chair and members of the committee. My name is Krista Carr, CEO of Inclusion Canada. We are the national federation representing people with an intellectual disability and their families, 13 provincial and territorial member associations, and more than 300 local associations across the country. Every day, we advocate, educate, and deliver programs in the area of disability and human rights. We work to ensure people with an intellectual disability have the same access, dignity, opportunity, and equality as everyone else. We also live the harsh reality of legislated poverty and failed support systems, housing shortages, inadequate home care, and insufficient disability and mental health supports. We confront systemic discrimination and historical disadvantage. We watch as people are made vulnerable by the very systems that are supposed to be providing support. We navigate systems that regularly send messages to persons with disabilities that they are broken, that they are a burden to their families and to society, and since 2021, because of Track 2 MAID, that their lives are not worth living. We live the consequences of this MAID regime every single day. We see a pattern in which individuals choose assisted suicide, not out of a genuine desire to die, but because the supports needed to live with dignity are simply not made available. We answer calls weekly from individuals with a disability who are offered MAID when they attempted to access the healthcare system for everything from a bruised hip to pneumonia. Across this country, persons with disabilities are being steered toward death when what they seek is help. This is the human side of MAID, and it is not rare. When I tell you this is happening, I ask you to believe me and to believe them. Please do not dismiss these experiences as anecdotes. They are people whose lives are directly affected by the laws you have written. MAID is a human rights issue, and it's an equality issue. Track 2 MAID applies only to persons with disabilities who are not dying. This disability-based access to assisted death constitutes discrimination contrary to Section 15 of the Charter. It devalues the lives of persons with disabilities, reinforces harmful stereotypes, and deepens historical disadvantage. And no amount of additional safeguards can change that. Canadians without disability who experience poverty, isolation, or social suffering are not offered death. They are offered suicide prevention, treatment, housing, and support. Persons with disabilities are entitled to the same response. Instead, however, we are offering people with disabilities MAID instead of help. Track 2 is incompatible with Canada's domestic and international human rights obligations. In 2025, the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities expressed extreme concern about Track 2 and recommended that Canada repeal it, including the planned expansion to mental illness as the sole underlying condition. The committee linked MAID requests to failures in poverty reduction, healthcare, housing, and community mental health services. I will briefly address arguments this AMAD committee has heard. That the disability organizations do not represent the disability community on this issue. This claim is inaccurate and deeply offensive. Disability organizations are governed by and accountable to persons with disabilities. Our organizations are recognized by Canadian courts and international bodies as representative organizations of persons with disabilities. We speak as voices shaped by lived experience and a history of discrimination. You have been asked to give equal weight to end-of-life advocacy organizations. Respectfully, they don't represent people with disabilities as a class. On matters of disability law, Parliament must give greatest weight to organizations rooted in the disability community itself. Parliament is now being asked to add mental illness to Track 2. There is no professional consensus for this. In 2022, the heads of psychiatry at all 17 Canadian medical schools called for the delay, warning there is no accepted way to distinguish a MAID request from suicidal ideation. The American Psychiatric Association opposes physician-assisted death where mental illness is the sole condition. Treat people with disabilities the same. If others in crisis are met with suicide prevention, meet people with disabilities with suicide prevention. If other Canadians with mental illness are met with treatment, meet people with disabilities with treatment. If people with disabilities are poor and isolated, meet that poverty and isolation with housing, income, and support so they can live with dignity. You cannot call it equality when everyone else receives help and people with disabilities receive death. Committee members, maintain the exclusion for mental illness, repeal Track 2, do not write one law for everyone else and another one for us.